Good afternoon. I'm David Mandy, president of O&M Partners, and I want to welcome everyone to the GT Goldfields Town Hall webinar. It's an exciting time for G2 and appreciate everybody's attendance on the call. For those of you that are new to these broadcasts, about 6 years O&M recognized the sea change in non-deal investor marketing. A whole new generation of investors were coming up that couldn't necessarily be found in the key financial centers. Self-directed investors are receiving information at home that used to be geared and available only really to professional investors in conference rooms. We like to say that we work with public companies, and in fact, we also help bring them public in the sense of bringing their information to a wider public. GT Goldfields trades under the symbol GTWO on the TSX Venture. They also have an OTCQX listing, GUIGF, which is a great listing for buying in the US. The questions in Q&A are for everyone, and they can be easily answered by going to the question portal of GoToWebinar, or you can also email us. Be assured that any questions that are unanswered, we'll follow up in a timely manner after the call. For those who dialed in with your phone, the only way you can hear our pre-recorded introductory presentation is on your computer speakers. If that's not possible, you'll be able to hear the main presentation after about 7 minutes. So we appreciate it if you'll please stay tuned. Before we turn to our host, it's a pleasure to introduce our introductory speaker, Patrick Sheridan, who's the executive chairman of G2 Goldfields. Mr. Sheridan has over 25 years of experience working in Guyana, has raised over $400 million for exploration and development of projects in Guyana. Patrick was the CEO and the founder of the Guyana Goldfields he founded it, put it into production. It was the Aurora Gold Project, which ultimately was sold to a huge Chinese mining company, Zijin, back in 2020. Patrick's experience, obviously, in being in Guyana for this long and being involved in discoveries, exploration, certainly uniquely qualifies him to be to help with the North Star of G2. And so on that note, I'm going to turn the call over to Patrick.
Hi, I'm Patrick Sheridan. I'm the founder and chairman of G2 Goldfields. G2 Goldfields is a company that myself and CEO Dan Noon put together about 4 years ago, and our objective is quite simply to find the next plus 5 million ounce gold deposit. We have two main groups of assets. Our Canadian assets, which are an entire Greenstone belt just to the north of Red Lake, Ontario. We call it the Sandy Lake Greenstone Belt. It's almost 70 miles long. We drilled about 3,000 meters up there, and we will be announcing very shortly the terms of the spin out to the shareholders, but our goal is to separate our two main groups of assets, and we will be distributing for free a share dividend to investors in the coming months. So the company will split in two. One will hold the Canadian assets, the other will hold the Guyanese assets, and I'm here primarily to talk to investors about the Guyanese assets and why we're so excited. If I could sum up our company in just a couple points, I would like to make three main points. One is we're in a great district. The Guyana Shield itself has produced more than 100 million ounces of gold. It's largely unexplored, primarily because of lack of infrastructure. And it's somewhere that we've got a great deal of experience, plus 25 years. So we're in the right district. The second point I'd like to make is we've got the right properties. So we've got four main groups of properties, Jubilee, Oko, Baramu, and the Peters mine. And importantly, two of the four properties are past producing gold mines, historical gold mines from the early 1900s. And I'll speak a little bit more about why that's important very shortly. And the third point I'd like to make is, so we've got the right district, we've got the right properties, but more important than everything, we've got the right team. Dan and myself have been directly responsible for discovering more than 9 million ounces of gold resources in the Guyana Shield. We're by far the most successful exploration team ever in the country's history. Included in that 9 million ounces of gold resources, 6.5 million ounces of gold reserves at the Aurora mine, which we built and put into production about 4 or 5 years ago. We're now out with our new company, G2. We're going to do it all over again, and we hope to make exceptional returns for our shareholders. We know the country well, we know how to operate there, and we know how to mobilize. If I could just jump quickly back to the property portfolio. There's an old adage in the mining industry that says the best place to find a new mine is in the shadow of the head frame of an old mine. And that's been true. That's been proven to be true time and time again. If you look historically in Guyana, there are four main past producers: Omai, Aurora, Aramu, and Peters mine, and we control the past two. So Omai was originally mined by the Germans in the 1880s. Fast forward into the 1980s with modern exploration techniques, a new mine was built there and 4 million ounces of gold were produced there. The Aurora mine, which is in production from 1939 to 1945, that was a project that I started to work on in the late 90s, early 2000s. We discovered, as I mentioned earlier, 8.5 million ounce resource there and a 6.5 million ounce mining reserve. The mine is currently in production. It produces between 150 and 200,000 ounces per year. And so that's another example of that second mine found by sniffing around these old mines. So Peters and Aramu, which were turn of the century mines, Peters operated from 1904 to 1909. It was the highest grade gold mine in South America when it operated, with head grades of approximately 40 grams per ton. It was mined down to about 250 feet only. They took 40,000 ounces out at more than an ounce per ton. We think this is an exceptional exploration opportunity, and we'll be drilling there in the coming months. Aramu only operated for 1 year, and the 1910-1911 period, it produced approximately 7,000 ounces from about 15,000 tons of ore. So, you know, mill head grades of about half an ounce per ton. Again, very shallow workings. We've got that entire district sewn up, and we found already at Oko, about 4 or 5 kilometers away, approximately 3 miles. Another significant discovery, which we call Oko. Last year, we drilled approximately 63 holes, totaling about 40,000 feet in that deposit. We've got a 3,000-foot strike length already. We've drilled it down to about 600 feet. And this year, we'll be looking at expanding on that initial work. And so there's a great deal of not only expertise and experience within the company, but we've also, more importantly, got the right assets to work on. We have primarily been financing this with friends and family up to this round. Up to this time, the management, myself being the largest part of that, and Dan have collectively put in over $5 million in exploration, $5 million in investments so far. So, I mean, equally, very importantly, our interests are aligned with the shareholders' interests. There's no big salaries. We're all going to get rich by being shareholders, not by being employees. And we really feel that, you know, this is a key point of the company where we really are focused on shareholder returns rather than in some sort of creating some sort of lifestyle for ourselves. Guyana itself, great place to operate. It's the fastest growing country in the world now. Massive oil discoveries offshore are going to change the country forever. I alluded to the lack of infrastructure hampering mineral exploration historically over the last century or so. But really, as we look forward into the coming decades, we feel that Guyana is a great place to be, a great place to invest. A lot of the money from initial oil money, which is just starting to trickle in, will be invested in infrastructure that will improve access to different parts of the country and improve our ability to explore. So we're there for the long haul. We look forward to making more discoveries for our shareholders. And we think if you're looking for an exploration team and an exploration opportunity in the Western Hemisphere, we think G2 Gold is something that you should take a good hard look at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Really appreciate that introduction. Yes, Patrick is, if you look at his career, there's no doubt that his focus is to create shareholder value. Now it's a pleasure to turn to our Chief Executive Officer and Director of G2, Dan Noon. Dan has more than 30 years of international mineral exploration development experience. He's done everything from implementing grassroots drilling programs to feasibility studies. He's managed projects in Guyana, in Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Peru, Ecuador, Argentina. Some of those aren't very easy places to work in. But most importantly, previous role includes Executive Director and VP of Exploration of Guyana Goldfields. So that is really key. I'd like to add always that Dan's a member of the Institute of Australian Geoscientists. On that note, I'm going to turn it over to Dan.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the G2 Town Hall webinar. Thank you, Patrick, for that good presentation to introduce the company. So basically, here's a forward-looking statement. Whilst you're reading that, on the left we have the Oko Pit and Oko Camp, and on the right-hand side is the Aramu Pit. Okay, so why Guyana? And Patrick touched on it before, and I suppose for us, we've been very successful there finding gold, but for the rest of the world, it's the western half of the Leomand Shield from West Africa. In West Africa, it's given up 300 million ounces in discoveries in the last 30 years, and the Guianas sit about 100 million. So there's probably a 200 million ounce deficit. We're there, but more importantly, companies like Barrick, Newmont, Zijin Mining are all there now. But we got there first, and we feel we have a large advantage both technically and on the ground. So if you look at this slide, it shows you the Guianas from Venezuela down to Dutch Guyana there at Marion. What we see here is a number of large districts from El Callao, 18 million ounces, Las Cristina 17, Marion 9. So what we have are these greenstone belts, normally with multiple deposits within them, one mill, but multiple deposits along a 10 to 15 mile zone. You see in Guyana, we have Aurora, Toroparu, large deposits, and Omai was 5 million ounces. So we're in the heart of this gold district in northern Guyana. So if we zoom in closer again to the Guyana itself, you see there's a 120 mile radius of gold deposits from Toroparu to Omai. Georgetown, the capital, is here in the northeast. Access is very good. We have a main road from Bartica, which comes all the way to Peters and ends up at Toroparu. It also now runs up past Oko and to Aramu. So these are government maintained all-weather roads. We have all year access. So logistics is very good now and a lot easier than it was when we were at Aurora. So things are getting better, as Patrick said, about the infrastructure. So the discovery team. Well, the discovery team is Patrick, obviously, and you've heard his bio, myself. We also have Violet Smith, who is our country manager. She was the country manager for Guyana Goldfields. She's very highly regarded politically in Guyana. She was our lead, and the IFC was our major financier at Guyana Goldfields. She led that charge with the IFC, and very experienced country manager and Guyanese. Our VP of Exploration is Boaz Wade, who worked at the Karuni mine with Troy before joining us at the Aurora mine. Once again, great experience in Guyana. He's worked at the last two developed gold mines there. He's worked very closely at unraveling the geology here. He's well versed with what we're looking at in the Oko, Aramu and Peter's Jubilee district to lead the way down there in the discovery. Okay, so we get back to what we have down in Guyana. When we first went there, one of the reasons we thought we could do well here was that we could put together districts, 10 to 15 mile long districts that have old gold mines in them, and we can put together a land package where we have the majority of that. Because as we know in the orogenic deposits, you talk about Kirkland Lake or Bendigo or Ashanti in Africa, these things run over 10 to 15 miles long and have multiple deposits. And to really get the full bang for your buck, rather than just finding the one, you want to find 4 or 5 and not just have 5 or 10 million ounces, but the potential to find 50 to 60 million ounces as you're doing those belts. And that's what we really would be the huge end game here. But we started down at Oko, down the southeast, and we made our first discovery in December or November, December of 2019. And so down here, we've focused in the southeast. We had 63 holes in the main zone. We drilled some scout holes to the south, and then we drilled some scout holes up in the Aramu district, 10 miles away at the northwest end of the district. And we made a discovery hole up there at Aramu towards the end of last year under the old Aramu pit. So very early days as far as district scale, but we have made a discovery already at the Oko deposit. So we have one which we will focus on making bigger and expanding, but also we have the rest of the district, which we feel has huge potential. As you can see on this map of our photos, all of these creeks are full of artisanal workings, historic and quite recent around here. So we know there's lots of gold coming out of this area. And like I say, our first shot at it here at Oko has worked out very well for us. So we zoom in here on the Oko zone, and north is to the right-hand side of the page here. The main zone, which is about 3,000 feet long, runs along here. What we have is a main shear zone, which runs for about 1 mile along here, a bit more than a mile. And that is basically bringing the fluids up into the system. Within that, we have 2 high-grade veins here along the Oko main zone, which run that 900 meters and dip gently to the south. And they're high-grade and consistent along that whole 900 meters. Further to the south and northwest, we have had high-grade intercepts, but to yet we haven't drilled those up into a coherent body. If we focus in on that main zone here, this is just a sketch to show where the drilling has been, drilling from generally east to west. Here's some highlights of the style of widths and grades we get. So you see mineable widths anywhere up to 11 meters from 2 to 11, but the grades are exceptional. I mean, always well above what would consider to be high grade. I mean, it's exceptionally high grade here, 49 grams a ton, 33 grams a ton. This is a high grade body, and it's consistent along 900 meters. So if we look at, it's like a 3D plan model of it to a degree, we see the main shear zone here, which we need to drill further to the north and south, the main vein, which we have over 900 meters, and the footwall vein, which we drilled over about half that distance, because basically in the north, when we started drilling, we weren't drilling that deep. So we only discovered that halfway through our program. We'll follow up on that this year. When we look at a section through the deposit, what we see is consistently hitting high grade down the main vein. We hit the shear zone consistently, and we're starting to hit the western vein, footwall vein as well, consistently. And if you look at the long section, you can see all those high grade intercepts all the way along. This is not just, you know, a good hole here or a good hole there. Every hole hits the body. And as we've consistently started drilling deeper and stepping back further to the east, we hit the shear zone, we hit the main zone, we hit the western zone. So we get 3 pay zones in every hole. So quite exciting. The drill program this year will be going to extend the mineralisation down to depth. So basically to date, we're only down to about 600 feet. We'd like to extend it down to 1,500 feet. Now, one of the things we really like about being in Guyana and here at Oko is that we are near the surface. If we were in Canada or Australia or Africa, you know, a lot of these places have already mined out the first 3,000 feet, and they're going back now and turning them into good mines down at greater depths. But we have this high-grade mineralization right here near the surface. It's never been mined by modern mining. So that is a great opportunity here. This is something which would have been mined 100 years ago in Australia. So the other great thing about the Oko deposit is there's lots of visible gold. And so it's very easy to know when you're in the deposit. And moving forward, it'll also make it very easy metallurgically. It's a great system. It hasn't got many nasties, and it's got what should be very free milling gold. Okay, so to talk more about the Oko district, we see down here in the southeast, we're here at Oko itself. We'll take you now up to the Aramu in the northwest, which was the historic mine from 1910-11. There's been 20 mines mined up there over a period of time. And this is the district here. So basically we have our sedimentary package, which hosts our mineralization at Oko, and actually we now know runs around to the Powerhouse vein and Aramu vein. And this is where we drilled some scout holes over 4 kilometers towards the end of last year with our successful discovery hole happening here under the Aramu pit. So here's the veining that we drilled at the Aramu pit, exactly the same as we see at Oko. It's quartz veining with carbon in it, and carbon is important because it helps drop out the sulfur, which then drops the gold. So that's why we see these spectacular gold grades in these systems of quartz veins hosted within carbonaceous shales. So this is the aerial shot of the Aramu pit here. This is about 150 feet long by about 50 feet, and that was the original high-grade mine there, which went about ½ an ounce. And so our discovery hole drilled through that section there, and this is what we hit. We went through a 15-meter wide zone, which contained 3.5 meters, 10.5 grams. It also contains some old workings. So we'll plan to go back and drill underneath that and get a clean section of the mineralization there, and then we need to find out where we can extend this to, just as we did at Oko. So this is earlier stage in Oko, but it's our discovery from the end of last year. So now we have we've just talked to the Oko Aramu trend, which is 10 miles long, which is where we've made the discovery at Oko and had a discovery hole at Aramu. The other district we have, which we put together, is the Peters to Jubilee district. Now, the Peters mine, Patrick touched on before, was Guyana's first high-grade deposit, mined back in 1905 to 1910. And the Jubilee mine was mined by the same group. It had a shaft reported in British Geological Survey annuals that it had similar grade to Peters, but we have no historic data there yet. So this is the historic photo, though, of the main bridge at Peters mine. So this is back 1905. The USGS put a remaining resource there in 1964 of 160,000 ounces, an ounce a tonne. That's probably down to about 200 meters, it would be my guess. And that's not 43-101 compliant either. However, this is the Peters to Jubilee district. So we've consolidated it. Once again, we feel that you need to consolidate districts to discover all the deposits. So we have the old mine at the Peters mine, which was down to the base of saprolite, so probably 150 to 200 feet. Then there was the incline shaft, then there was Herald's Hill, there was the Jubilee shaft and the long strike vein, which we don't have data from. Some drilling was done at the Peters mine in 1996, an excellent high-grade mineralization. It's a high-grade chute plunging to the southwest. We will go back and try and extend it. We will extend it down to 500 meters. It's just down to 200 currently. We'll also go and drill the first holes ever at the Jubilee pit here in the southeast up Jubilee Creek. It's been mined by local family for the last 30 years. We'll be the first team ever to stick drill holes into it. Recent sampling from vein material there came back at ½ ounce to 0.8 of an ounce. So exceptionally high grade once again. We're very excited to be the first people to drill this probably in the first quarter to second quarter this year. So here's a picture of the Jubilee pit It's got mined with an excavator. Here's your vein running through the center of the pit here, and that's what's running 1/2 ounce to 0.8. So that will be drilling that in the not too distant future. So once again, that's our second belt. We have the Oko Aramu. Now we have the Puruni district to open up the second front. Okay, so the plans for this year moving forward for the first Q1 and Q2 is to commence drilling back at Oko in a week to 2 weeks time. We've just mobilised the crew. The idea here is to extend the mineralisation to depth down to at least 500 metres or 1,500 feet, but also to explore to the south and to the northwest, where we have had some high-grade intercepts in drill holes, and we do have the shear zone continuing. And so we have mineralisation continuously along a trend of about 2.5 miles to date. So we were quite excited about the potential extension along strike as well as down depth. In April, we'll do a follow-up hole at Aramu to get that intersection in fresh rock and to determine where we need to go to find the continuations of the Aramu mineralisation. We have it over 4 kilometres or 3 miles in that area. Obviously 20 mineralised veins. There's a lot of work to do there to find the right carbonaceous shale with the quartz veining intersected by the shears, but we know what we're looking for, the same as Oko, and just systematically we will achieve that. In May, we then plan the maiden drill program at Jubilee, which is quite exciting. We know it's high grade. We know it's part of a high grade district there at Peters and Jubilee, and it's never been drilled. So we'll be quite excited to see this in fresh rock underneath the pit. And then in June, we plan to get back to the Peters mine and extend the mineralisation there to depth. What we have there is a high-grade chute with flatter lying exceptional plus ounce zones. There's 3 of them to date, down to about 150 feet. As we drill down the chute, we should intersect more veins. They seem to have a periodicity of about 120 feet where they come in. So we're excited about that program as well. So there's a lot to get on with for the first half of this year, and really we'll be drilling, discovery holes probably into 3 of these areas, but also following up with the Oko to keep the expansion there going along. So the value proposition, like I say, as Patrick said, we own a lot of shares ourselves and put a lot of money in ourselves, so we think a lot about the value proposition. And basically, we're at the heart of a premier gold district, not just in Guyana, but in the Guyana Shield. And if you talk to the Richard Goldfarb at the SCG, he believes that the Leoman Shield, it is the best gold district in the world, and this is the other half of it. And that's why we're seeing the majors coming into the country and looking to buy stuff. We have a strong property portfolio. We have 2 districts, which is very hard to get 2 districts consolidated like we have done. And we have been able to do that because we've been there a long time, and we're picking these things up in the bad times, you could say, of 4 or 5 years ago. We have the best in district discovery team. We've been there ourselves, myself and Patrick, but also the geologists we have working for us have been in the field down there at various mines in Guyana. So we know what we're looking for down there. We feel we have an edge on the other companies. And basically, as I've said before, we are totally aligned with shareholders here. So back to our corporate structure. The capital structure, 122 million shares out, fully diluted, we're 150 million shares. Directors' participation to date is north of $5 million. So, like I say, aligned with shareholders. You see this little image here, that's our gold, but also it's our trenching and our drilling. We're very effective in the field, and we spend our money very wisely. So the original guys back in the 1900s, here's a picture of those. They did find the gold out in Guyana, but it was never mined in a modern manner. And that's, like I say, I'd like to reiterate that, is that we have the whole of the Greenstone belts here, the first kilometre all the way down to probably 2 kilometres. So there's lots and lots of discovery to be happening within our 2 main districts. So basically, we have a mission, we have a vision, and we do it with good values. We don't go and destroy the earth. We're actually very, very careful about how we do things, and we bring our people along with us. So we're very happy that we have the IFC as our partners at Aurora, and we think moving along we'll carry on with that tradition. So if there's, I'll hand it back to the audience, I suppose, for any questions.
Thank you, Dan. David Mandy here. I'm going to start with a question. You just talked about the Guyana Shield, and my question is, could you discuss the cost advantages of mining in the Guyana Shield versus, say, other shields like the Canadian Shield?
Well, I think to start with, basically, because we're starting at surface, it's a lot less capital intensive to start up. So when we started at Aurora, and it was a rather large mine, that was, a $250 million startup compared to something where you had to go underground 400 or 500 meters. You'd be looking closer to $1 billion elsewhere, right? So I mean, it's easy mining at the start. Generally, you'll start with an open pit, and then you'll phase into an underground. So you can get cash flow, and then that cash flow will allow you to build your mine out of cash flow, so reduce dilution. So it really is a great advantage having open pittable material to start with.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. We'll turn now to Howie Flinker. Howie, do you have a question today?
Hi, Dan. What are the two companies going to be called?
Well, G2 Goldfields is the company which is in Guyana, and the company in Canada will be S2 Resources.
Say that again, please.
S2.
S2, as compared to G2. And
yes, exactly, yes.
You mentioned carbon. How will you get rid of the carbon?
Oh, well, see, it's the good thing about it is it's carbonaceous shales. It's not graphite. So graphite is a problem in mines graphite is activated carbon. So, if you had graphite, that's problematic. Here, the carbon doesn't grab the gold. What the carbon does, it reduces the fluid and drops out the sulfur. So you get pyrite and other sulfides, and then the gold just drops out as visible gold. So that's the beauty of these systems. So that's why we like carbonaceous shales, but we don't like graphite.
Graphite, you need a roaster, which is a huge project.
Yeah, so no, we don't have graphite here. The golds will be free milling. So it's no different to something like Bendigo or Maruntal or Ashanti. They're all hosted in these carbonaceous shales, and that's something else which generally all the mega deposits that we see around the world, the plus 20 million ounce deposits are hosted in these carb shales. So that's another reason we really like this belt.
3 more questions. Have you penciled what the capital expense might be, or have you not gone that far?
Now, we haven't really gone that far, right? I mean, someone asked me that question the other day, and I said, well, when we started Aurora, we had to build 100 kilometres of road, and it cost $250 million to build that 5,000 tonne a day plant. Karooni, to the south of us, was built for $70 million for 1,000 tonne a day or 2,000 tonne a day plant. So I'd say somewhere between those two numbers is what you would be looking at in this district. But we wouldn't. That's just a real back of the envelope, not in back of the envelope. It's just
do I recall that the income tax rate in Guyana is 30%?
That's correct. Yes.
And finally, this indirectly relates to taxes. When will the oil offshore Guyana begin to flow? Because they're going to have a huge amount of income.
They will. It's already flowing. They're already getting their first oil checks. So I think it's by now north of $100 million they've received in oil checks. Patrick may want to jump in there. I think they're definitely getting lots of money.
You're correct, Dan. The royalties have already started to flow to the government. Exxon was very fast-tracked. Exxon and has fast-tracked the development of those offshore discoveries, and the oil and the money's already flowing.
Yeah, Exxon, Amarada, Hyassa, and the Sinuk, and that's only for 700,000 people, right? That's the whole population.
That's correct. 750,000. Yep.
Well, they're not going to have pressure to raise taxes. All right, thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Howie. Let's turn to Victor Zhao. Victor, question today. We'll have to mute Victor. Something's wrong, and we'll have him. Victor, please just send your question, and we'll be happy to ask it.
Yeah, the audio was.
We'll go to Doug Loud.
Hi, Dan. How are you holding up today?
Very good.
Could you talk a little bit about my favorite topic, the permitting structure in Guyana? What's it like? Is it easy to get with, or is it hard to deal with? Are they slow, fast? How's it look?
I'd say very fast in comparison to most countries around the world. Certainly, we've never had to wait to get drilling permits or anything of that nature. At Aurora, we were permitted for the mine before we'd financed it. So basically, once we did our feasibility, we were permitted there. It's a very it's a good structured system. It is not ad hoc at all. I mean, it really is well managed, the mines department down there, and they're very keen to see investment in mining. So there's generally no holdups down there. I find it probably the best jurisdiction I've worked in. Probably similar to what Peru was 20 years ago.
Oh, you didn't touch on it today, I don't think, but you also have some adventures planned for Paraguay. Is there a good permitting effort up there?
No, I think you've got me confused with someone else, Paraguay. No, we were not in Paraguay.
Oh, very sorry. That's it then. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, Doug, good questions. Let's turn to Scott. Do we have any questions from our audience that you'd like to ask now?
Yes, we do. And I just wanted to say that Victor was able to send in his question. The first one is, what is your cash position?
Cash position at the moment is we have $3 million in the bank. We have $2 million in warrant money due by the end of March.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I have some more questions. I want to thank the audience for sending in these questions. There's still time to send them in using the question panel or the chat panel on the GoToWebinar menu. First question is, how did the company generate $700,000 in revenue?
Okay. When G2 acquired Bartica Investments in 2020, it was announced in 2019. When we acquired the company had artisanal miners on the project, which pay a tithe on the gold produced. So from the Peters and the Aramu mining districts, there's agreements with underlying, or Bartica Investments, which is our subsidiary down there, has collects a tithe from local miners down there.
Okay, great. Thank you. And this may be what you just answered too, is there any small scale mining and refining on any of the properties? Maybe historic
Yes, there
works?
is. So at Aramu, there is 2 shafts which have small scale Brazilian operations on them, and at Oko there's 1. And then so basically these small scale Brazilians are shafts. They line the shafts with timber, they pump water out, but there's something that's probably akin to the early 1900s. But that's the way the mid-scale has moved in Guyana. So they've moved away from excavators and open pits, and now the Brazilians have come in with putting down shallow shafts to the base of the saprolite and just mining the saprolite like that.
Thank you. Next question, when will the most recent round of results be back from the lab, and are there lab delays as well going into the new drilling program this upcoming year?
No, it basically, the lab now should be running fine. At the end of last year, they had an issue with getting flux in. The ship that was carrying it down was held up in a port in the States with COVID-19, but we've been getting our rock chip samples back from the lab to date. We think this year should run smoother. Last year there was a few hiccups. There was limitations on how many people we can have in the lab. There's lots of things they had to adjust to, but we think that moving forward we should have a pretty good turnaround. Not as perfect as when we started, but we think it should be not too bad.
Great, thank you. A couple questions about, is there an NSR on the property? And also, does the government have an NSR? I know you mentioned the tax rate, but what is the mining royalty rate due to the government as well as any other NSRs?
The mining royalty rate, which was at Aurora and is also at Karuni, I think, is 8%. Mid-scale miners get charged 5%. On our project, there are underlying NSRs at Oko and Jubilee to the option NORs, and we can buy them out for $2 million at each project. So basically, they've got a 2% NSR, but they can be bought out for $2 million.
Thank you. Next question. Do you feel that the geology of the current property is an extension of the Aurora geology of your original?
It's the same basin. So yes, it's the same sedimentary environment. It has the carbonaceous shales. It has the sandstones. It has the volcanics. It's exactly the same sequence as we saw up at Aurora.
Excellent. When does the company split complete?
We have the vote in, I think it's March 14, and it's the split should be sometime in April. I think April 7 is the predicted day for the dividend, and then hopefully be trading. I think Patrick may know more exactly. I think it was May would be the split. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick.
That's our target date, yeah.
Excellent. And at the moment, the final question from the audience, unless I get another one, is wondering what drill costs are like in Guyana, maybe all-in cost per meter?
We just did this the other day. The all-in cost per meter was $198, so call it 200 US.
Great. So far, that's the questions from the audience. If anybody has another one, please feel free to send it in. Otherwise, David, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Scott. Great work. Dan and Patrick, I'm going to turn it back to you guys for closing remarks.
Hi, it's Patrick here. Just going to jump in. To sum up here, I mean, last year we drilled about 50 to 60 holes. Our hit ratio in terms of success was extremely high, greater than 80%. Our goal in the first half of 2021 is to drill at least another 50 holes between the 4 projects, and we are hoping with some success, and we're confident of that we would be able to accelerate that in the second half of the year. So with any luck, we can have in excess of 100 drill holes to talk about this time next year from the 2021 program. And of course, there's never any guarantees in this business, but we're trying to stack the deck as best we can in favor of our shareholders, and we think we've got a great shot at delivering meaningful returns here over the short run.
To you, Dan. Dan?
Okay, well, Patrick's fairly well wrapped up what we're doing this year and what we're trying to achieve. And I think even on a grander scale, we really do believe that we are in a world-class belt here in the Guyana Shield, and that we really do have the opportunity to find multiple, plus 5-10 million ounce deposits. I mean, that's why we're here. That's, like I said, why Barrick and Newmont and GUIANA are here, and it's going to be an exciting ride over the next short while. We've made the first discovery at Oko, but we think we really do have a chance of making a lot more discoveries out here.
Thank you, Dan. Patrick, for presenting, and I appreciate everyone being on the call and for all the great questions, and want to wish you a very pleasant evening. All the best to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.